On this episode of China Uncensored, why is the US giving free money to China? Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. China is the world's fastest growing economy, the second largest consumer of energy, maintains the largest standing army, and holds about $1.2 trillion of American debt. So you gotta wonder why the US feels China needs a handout. Every year, the United States gives millions of dollars in aid to China. That's even when the wealthiest 70 delegates of China's National People's Congress are worth $89 billion. That's more than 11 times the net worth of the entire U.S. Congress. The Chinese regime likes to walk the line between economic powerhouse and suffering developing nation, depending on which is to its benefit at the time. So this is the image China likes to project most of the time. Economically strong, robust, a developed nation equal to any country on Earth, capable of embarking on large-scale infrastructure works that occasionally collapse or crash in a fiery explosion, and a support to developing nations around the world, like in 2011 when China donated 23 school buses to the tiny European country of Macedonia. Sure, the country's per capita GDP are basically the same, and sure, Macedonia spends more of its GDP on education than China, and sure, it happened to be just 9 days after a school bus in China crashed and killed 19 preschoolers, but you know, as long as China has foreign aid buying their school buses, they can afford to give, and shaft their own people on education funding. So this is the China the Chinese regime likes to publicize. But then there's this China. The rural China, basically everything west of the major coastal cities, though even some parts of those cities don't seem to be doing too well either. So because the Chinese government is horribly corrupt and mismanaged, the gap between the rich and poor is fairly stark. But the Chinese regime uses that to its advantage because you get all kinds of perks as a developing nation. Between 2001 and 2011, the United States gave China $310 million in aid money. Actually, many countries do. Canada gave China $30 million between 2010 and 2011, and that's in real money, not Canadian money. Now, officially, the money is used to, quote, promote human rights, democracy, the rule of law, and environmental conservation in China and Tibet, and to support Tibetan livelihoods and cultures. Yeah, that seems to be working out. So the Chinese regime is fine taking free international money while it can afford to invest billions of dollars in Africa, but not a penny for these guys. China's status as a developing nation also means concessions on international protocols. For example, the Kyoto Treaty. It's supposed to regulate greenhouse emissions and prevent, total world destruction, but China is exempt because it's a developing nation. So because China can burn as much coal as it wants, they've become the largest coal consumer on Earth. Of all the coal burned in a year around the world, 47% is burned in China. Think about it. That means they burn almost as much coal as the rest of the world combined. And it's because they don't have to follow any international regulation. Because, they're a developing nation. Now, this is making a lot of people kind of, a bit peeved that their countries are just giving money to China. That's why Canada has said they'll be cutting off direct aid to China by 2015. But so what do you think? Should the U.S. do the same? Email me at chinauncensored@ntdtv.com, or you can follow me on Twitter and like China Uncensored on Facebook. And as always, be sure to subscribe and comment below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.